Welcome to CxXchange, how any CS Pro can build an app with AI. And it's led by me. There's no co-presenter today. It is just me, Jan Young. So I will introduce myself real briefly. My name is Jan Young. I'm the founder of CxXchange. We're just coming up on 4 years of this amazing volunteer-led community. It was once just me doing it all by myself. Now we've got about 20 board members, 5 or 6 different programs. I lose track of everything that we're doing. We have a newsletter, we have a Slack community. You know, it's truly incredible. It's whatever you come and make of it. So if you've got an idea, come on board and let's share it with each other. And see, my name is Jan Young. Besides being the founder of CxXchange, I'm also the founder of StepupXchange, which is a spin-off community where I guide CS leaders to build modern CS growth systems. And that includes an AI lab in it. Part of what I've been doing is building with AI. And so what I'm going to show you is sort of behind the scenes something that I built, which is a static assessment that was a PDF, and I turned it into an interactive app using Lovable. So I'm excited to have you here today, and we're going to do a little sneak peek, and I'll share all of that with you. So let's see, here we are. And okay, so now I need to, how can sorry, I'm just need to move a couple things around so I can get to the slides. And all right, now, first of all, just briefly, the why and the how behind building an app. You know, why even bother doing it? And with all of these AI tools, it's what's really exciting and what it unleashed for me is it's a way to go, and you'll see this, to go from static content to interactive apps. It's really, it's exponentially better. And the reason why is because you're literally unlocking personalized customer experiences. So I want you to really start to think about not just what I've done, but what you can do with something like this, right? And this is a way too where you can really start to think about how you can provide self-service tools or even just self-service explanations, you know, ways that you can help customers to help themselves because of how it can be personalized. You also have the opportunity to collect data from it so that you understand where your customers are having challenges versus where they're having successes in a much more personalized way that then you can respond to. But you can also have AI help you help them as well, right? So, I mean, just what it's able to unleash is truly like just like that mind blown emoji. If you, I don't know, I know that other people think in terms of gifs. I think in terms of emojis. I use that mind blown emoji probably a bit too much as I'm thinking about all the AI stuff, but it's really awesome. The other thing too about vibe coding, which is really just, it's a prompt, but vibe coding, instead of resulting in some words as you're interacting, instead it gives you a different output. And the output can be whatever you want it to be. It can be whatever you imagine it to be almost, right? And so, whoops, let me go back. Ba, 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 ba. Shoot. Let me go back there. Um, and the other thing I'll say about it too is you don't have to worry if you don't know how to do it because all literally anything that you see out on LinkedIn or whatever, if somebody's mentioning something, you're like, well, I don't know what that is. You literally can just ask AI. It will explain it to you. It will show you how to do it. So, you know, I don't usually, you know, connect APIs and things like that, right? I don't usually connect DNS, you know, records, you know, for websites. I do it maybe a couple times a year, but that's okay. I don't have to memorize it anymore. because literally it will customize the instructions for you. Um, but it is important that you share your context and your mission or your output and what you're trying to do with the LLM. The more context it has, the better. And one of the key things I've been doing, and I've been writing about this in my newsletter, which I can share with, the link for that too, but is literally like the voice to text is so much easier because you can share so much more context when you're doing voice to text than if you're having to write it all up. It can take, half an hour to write up everything versus, a couple of minutes to say it. Plus the time that it takes to edit everything when you're typing versus if you just let it come out from your head. It's amazing to be able to get everything that's in your head out onto the chat and then have the LLM uh, organize that information for you and ask you questions and make certain it has the full context, so then it can provide the best set of instructions for your vibe coding. And literally, that's what I've been doing. So I'll show you that in a minute. But then ultimately, what you have as the output when you're working with the LLM is the prompt that you go and put in the vibe coding app. Any thoughts or questions before I just kind of show you what it looks like? Okay, so let me go to the next slide then. Sorry, I am just trying to move all of these windows around so I can see everybody and move. All right. So this is what the PDF looked like. And anybody who was part of the VIP Inner Circle, when they joined, they got this PDF and it had these 25 questions. And I'll go ahead in a little bit. I'll share the link to the PDF, or actually, I think I can share what it looks like here. Yeah, here it is. Let me, whoops. It'll take a second to load apparently. But so you see here, it had like a whole story and blah, blah, blah. And then it told you about the different points. And then it had all the questions. And then it was up to you to go and write it down on a piece of paper and to look at each section and translate what it meant for how many points you had. It was all up to you to do that, right? And then you were supposed to also add up all your points across and not just each section, right? It was up to you to do all of that additional work. Now, um, instead, then what I did was first I did a prototype using, and I can show you that in a second, but I did a prototype over in AI Google Studio, and it came up with this amazing looking version. And I really just had simple instructions. I just said, you're an expert. This is the name of it. Here's the assessment structure. And then I gave all of the sections and questions, right? And then it came up with this version here. And it automatically, on its own, came up with a spider graph, which I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it had these, executive summary and personalized observations. So it was really lovely to see this prototype. Now, guess how many minutes it took me to do this prototype over in AI Google Studio? Any guesses?
10 minutes.
15.
15 minutes.
Yeah, took about 10 minutes. Yep. And that's also though because I had forgotten, let me see. I I don't know if I have it here. Why
AI
can't
can reward us for our right answers.
Yes, exactly. Whoops, this is going backwards. I'm going next. Okay. So what happened was I'd forgotten to put my brand colors in there and it was doing some other colors. So it took me 10 minutes because I had to go over to Canva and grab my brand colors and then copy and paste it in here and then it did that. So this PDF that I showed you, that took me about 3.5 hours in Canva. Okay. This and then when I did it here, it took me 10 minutes. The problem was The problem was it was a prototype and I couldn't share it with y'all. And if I had just found a way to just publish it as is, it would have gone to all of the content out on the internet. And the whole point about it was it's a modern CS growth system based upon everything I'm doing in the CS Business Leadership Accelerator. And that is not from 2015 and everything old on the internet. So I wanted to be sure that it was drawing on everything from the accelerator and giving advice based upon, kind of how we're setting up the modern CS growth system. So I definitely did not want to just publish it and have it go off of the internet, right?
So was this basically a lead generator kind of thing?
Yeah, it is, but actually we're using it inside the accelerator as well because it's an assessment. So certainly if someone is sharing this with me, I will offer like a half-hour meeting with folks to, talk to them about their feedback. But in the accelerator, we're using it and coming up with game plans. That's the idea as well. So anyway, so that's what that looked like. So again, what you see, this is the two comparisons, the PDF, and then what it looked like there. But then what I did was I moved it over to Lovable. And so in Lovable, this is how it was it designed.
Wait,
And
can you back up? You started this in which program?
so first I started it in Canva.
Uh-huh.
Then I did a prototype in AI Google Studio, which I have just from having the Google Suite. And so, if I don't have it all in the list of, I think in the slides at the very end, I have a list of all of those things.
Thanks.
But anyway, and so I did the prototype there, which I like doing prototypes first, just because it's real quick, and then I can kind of get some ideas from it, and also get an idea of like what's not ready for prime time yet too, and what I need to sort of work through. So I like prototypes. Um, then after I worked through everything that I wanted to do with Claude, this is how I built it over in Lovable. So you can see kind of the results there. And this is what it looked like, just a snapshot, which I'll show you as I think I have Claude here. Oh, I don't. Oh, yeah, I do. So I'll show you, but this is kind of a snapshot of what it looked like over in Claude as I was working on it, right? And then this is what it looks like inside Lovable, but I'll show you this live as well. So there's this conversation that happens over on the side, and then you can see what it's doing over on this on the right. And then here is then what it starts to look like when you're going through and getting the results. And what I noticed is there were some things, like if you had scrolled down past the top half, like there were some things that appear very quickly because it was just sort of quick calculations. But then the analysis that it was going back to Claude for, that was taking longer. So I realized I wanted to have some new instructions here so that it would say one thing while it was generating so that you would know like, oh, be patient, it's happening, and then do another. So it's sort of conditional. So it has conditional messaging here so that it would have another message when it was done. So I added that in. But also, I realized that I didn't want to just have the results on a screen. I wanted to email them, right? So I also then, because I'm part of another AI group where we share ideas and stuff, and I knew about this other product that I could use to work in and send the emails directly as well. So I'll walk through and show you that as well. But then here, this is where then it says it shows the your personalized results are below. So then that's how it updates the messaging, right? And then this is what it looks like down below. And I'll also share the link. You're all welcome to go and take this CS Impact Index and see what it is, how it works and what it feels like as an experience for yourself, right? That's basically that's basically it. Now this is what it looks like inside Resend, which is the email app that I used. And I did have to add an API key. Now, because I wanted this to be its own separate URL, it's at csimpactindex.stepupexchange.com. I also had to connect the DNS records. That's something I referenced earlier, right? This is a behind the scenes website sort of thing. Now, again, I don't have that memorized. I do it maybe once or twice a year for something, right? And when I was in Lovable, it literally all I had to do to set up the DNS records correctly was click on a button over in that, where I was showing you before in Lovable what it looks like. See here? It gave me a button and I clicked on it and it set everything up properly. Whereas something to think about is your experience when you're building, because when I was building over here, it was add API key, right? But then it gave me these long instructions that were very detailed on all of the steps. And it had nothing to do with me because it wasn't for Squarespace, which is where I was using the where my website was, right? So I had to go back over to Claude and say, "Hey, I'm doing this with Resend, and it's for Squarespace. What are my steps?" And then Claude helped me. So it's not that your customers can't go and get help from AI for your product, because AI may be able to help it and may have the most up-to-date information about your product, or it may not, right? And so if you think about it, you can make it easier, simpler for your customer, because do your customers care about API keys? No, they don't. I'll tell you that right now. They don't. If instead it'd been just a click, the way that the DNS was just a click over in Lovable, it would have been so much easier and faster. So I want you to think about how you how you can make things simpler and easier and more accessible. And does your customer ever really need to know about some of these steps? Or can you just make it a button that they connect, that they click, right? And so when you're thinking about your own processes working with your customers, what could you simplify? What could you make simpler? All right. Let's see. Then let me see if there's anything else to show you here. Oh, and I also added a calendar link. And so I made it easier for folks to set up a meeting with me. And then, yeah. And so I, thought of some of these things as I went along, and went back to Claude and said, "Hey, Claude, what's the best way to prompt to add this in?" And then so that I didn't have to confuse Lovable at any stage. And Claude would give me the prompt, and then I'd just go and put it over, right? So it was very simple in that respect. Okay. I can show you what it actually looks like. I have all of these things on the different tabs, but I want to stop for a second and see if you have any questions.
Yeah, Jan, I have a few, of course, it's me.
Good.
All right, so few things. One, the bottom line is, one, I want to clarify, we all get imposter syndrome. Oh my gosh, anybody can do it. And we need to remember that we're CS coaches, right? The answer is available. I mean, there are libraries, there's internet. We've all always had these answers. So now everybody can do it, but nobody has your insight. We are
Yeah,
all,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
that's why we have
Well, eh, that's exactly it though, because AI now is your coach, right? And you can ask it anything and it will help you work through it. And so,
but you
so
need to
it
know what to
is.
ask it.
But
That
exactly though.
that
And
is
so the thing is that's why it's so critical to to be able to know what you're asking for is what's critical. So all of your expertise is more critical than ever, right? That is why it's so important that you step up with your expertise in customer success, but also be open to doing things in new ways,
Right.
right? So if you think I've always done it this way, I just want to go and recreate the same thing and I'll just have AI create it for me. Be a little more open. Don't create the same thing necessarily. Be open to trying new ways of doing things,
Right.
right?
The other thing that I wanted to clarify, there are two things. One, I wanted to ask you which tools you pay for and which ones you don't, because a lot of us still are trying to, you know,
So,
cobble things together. And the other
yeah,
question is, the other thing I wanted to clarify for a lot of people is you were going over, oh, I did this and this tool and this and this tool. And what I wanted to clarify is what I'm learning is do your whole discussion. What should I do in
yep,
Claude or in the
yep,
LLM? In the LLM is going to be where you're going to really imagine what it's going to be like, and you're going to
yep,
have that conversation. So think of your LLM as a coach, and
yep.
the other tools as your tools, and it'll tell you what to do.
And in fact, what I did is there was another tool that I built maybe a week and a half ago, and I asked Claude, which is my new fave. I gotta say, I'm not really over in ChatGPT at all anymore, except for some of my custom GPTs that I'm using over there. And I asked Claude, I said, well, where should I build this? I gave it a bunch of context. I said, this is what I'm thinking of, part of what I'm thinking of for output. And I made certain that I was open in terms of other ideas for the output. And then I said, where should I build this? What tools should I be looking at? And in that case, for what my requirements were, I didn't need to go and build it over in Lovable at all. I ended up just building it all in Claude. And then because I only needed to share the information with someone occasionally, my another coach of mine, then what I did was I made it so it could also generate a PDF that I could share with her periodically. So there's things like that that you can do. I'm literally actually creating a whole second brain over in Claude and putting all of my content together. And I am not a coder. I've, tried a couple of times, didn't really stick. But what I did was I literally went and I asked it how to start using Claude Code, right? And for anything I didn't know, I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. What is this? And it gave me more instructions and that sort of thing. And then when we were kind of going through and it became sort of a little bit of a spider maze, I said, okay, now reorganize and give me all of the information from with all of the adjustments that we've made, I want to see what my steps are again. And then it went and rearticulated all of the steps with the new things I was going to be doing, right? So that's what I want to say is like, don't be afraid of what if you think, well, I don't know if I can do this, you don't have to know how to do it because you have an AI coach that can help you with literally every single step, no matter where you are. You can say, explain to me like I'm five, and it will do that. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions from folks? Do you want to see real quick the actual tools? Do you want me to go to that or, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see what the tools are and then like where you're doing your talking versus
Yep.
where.
Yep. So, because I hadn't built my second brain yet, what I did was I started where all of my courses were, and this is literally how I started it off, was I, shared the PDF of the version and I first said, hey, I want to update some of these questions. I'm not happy with what I created 6 months ago. That was so 6 months ago. you know and so then first we did the updating of the assessment, and I had some other things that I shared, images and some more, and also I shared what my original prompt was in the over here. So this is where I did in the AI studio. this is where I did the prototype. And so I copied all of these instructions and I said, and I pasted it here and I said, hey, these were, and what I usually do, and I'll put it in the chat, what I usually do, there's a few things I do. One is, see this, I'll just go like this. I do a slash slash, and then whatever the information is, slash slash. And that indicates where I've copied over something that I want it to look at as separate information, right? So I say, here's the information. So like first I'll start off and I'll say, hey, so I'm going to share with you this, additional information that came from this other source. And then I'll copy and paste it by doing slash slash and then slash slash. And then afterwards I'll say, then I'll give a question and I'll say, whatever. So what I'll first do is I'll
So
do,
Jan, just to specify, you put a
yep,
slash before you paste and a slash after the double slash.
yeah,
after you paste.
two slashes. So that's what you see in the chat. And then the other thing is I will first write context. So I'll put context, right? And then context, here's whatever. Here's what
Can
we're
you zoom in a
doing.
little bit, please?
Well, yeah, actually maybe I have an example here. Let's see. This is mostly conversation here. And now this is where it's doing its thing. But see how even in the JavaScript, it has slash, 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 and then it has this information and then, that sort of thing. So like, it's part of like what the code understands is when you're saying, here's some information here, right? And so what, I don't know if I have, oh, here we go. I would prefer the feedback to the individuals and the dynamic assessment tool I'm building in Lovable to be specific to the individual's answers. And then I blah, 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 blah. Can we accomplish that with option one? And then I do slash slash option one, and I do slash slash at the end of this, right? Now, what you want to do, and I'm putting in the chat, you want to do the context, and then you have like a little intro, and then you're going to do slash slash stuff
So
there.
slash slash is common. That's common knowledge that or the systems know that means I'm pasting something.
Yeah, it's like to set something aside. You're saying, here's something aside, right?
Thanks.
And then my question here. So what I just put in the chat, you'll see. So I'll start off where you have the context. I'll do pound pound context. And then I have my little intro about something. And then if I want to copy and paste something in, then I will do slash slash around it. Otherwise, I'm just doing yammer, 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 blah, 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 blah. And then I'll do a space and I'll do pound, pound question. And then I'll put however many questions I have here. Is this something we should do in Lovable? Are there other places we should consider? What's the best way to organize this? What have I not thought of? Do you have any questions for me? Whatever. Like it can be as simple as that.
What's
And
the
that's
advantage? Why do you need to do the pound pound and the slash slash?
It's just a better way to help organize the information for a computer because it sort of calls out, here's a new section that I should, and what I'm doing in this section is I'm providing context. Here's another section, and what I'm doing in this section is I'm asking you questions.
Thank you.
So it's just a way to provide some additional context and and instructions that helps the computer to be to follow your organization, which is a good thing because I'm usually not very organized in what I'm doing. So let me just show you another couple things really quickly, and then send everybody out for 10 minutes to have conversations, and then we'll come back for the last 10 minutes to discuss. Okay. So this was the PDF I showed you. This is what it looks like in AI Studio, right? You can see at the top, it's aistudio.google.com. This is what it looks like in here. And another thing too is if you have any security issues, it will fix those for free. So it will go through, it will alert you to security issues, and then it will fix the security issues. And all you have to do is click a button and let it do its thing, which is also another thing that feels really good. This was the resend.com. Whoops, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because it has the emails and this is other stuff. So literally that's all I did. Now, am I paying for these tools? Yes. But that's because I'm using these tools a lot and it's, for my business that I'm using it all the time. So you want to think about what tools you have access to at work. And if you're in between roles, or you're just doing it for your own personal things, you can often do these things using the free version or the lowest paid tier. But usually if the difference between free and the lowest paid tier is that there are more functions or there's more capacity that will open up to you, or sometimes both, if you go to the paid version. But a lot of times those paid versions are at the $20 mark. And so if you can handle that in your budget, it is worth the investment. Okay, so why did I use Google AI Studio first? I could have done it in Lovable, but it's free to do it for me to do it in AI Studio, and I like having a prototype. And so just to start imagining and working things out. And that's another reason why I use Claude, so that I'm going through and working it out. If you start to confuse whenever you're sort of like working through something like this, if you start off with something that isn't well organized, like over in Lovable, then what will happen is that it'll start to get sort of like what we refer to as like spaghetti code. It'll kind of go round and around, and it isn't as structured as nicely, and it doesn't necessarily do what you need it to do, right? So it's always better to organize your thoughts as much as possible over in the LLM first, and it's also cheaper. Because when you're running something in Lovable, they even though they do have some free and low priced tiers, it will they charge more for the compute than say the LLM does, right? Because it is trying to do an output, and what you're trying to do is not an output. Another thing is, I'll just mention, when you're working in Lovable, I'll show you one more thing. There's plan, and then and if you click on plan, that is more like chatting. And they actually will give you credits. If you work in planning mode and you have 25 messages in planning mode, it will give you 5 credits back. At least that's what it is today. And so you want to be sure that if you're not doing an output where you don't need to see, like you're just kind of getting some instructions correct, and making certain that Lovable understands what you're trying to do, you can work that out in plan here and then hit, go. And it will be less costly than when it's actually trying to produce your output over here, because that is more costly. And that's kind of the difference. An LLM is just doing text back and forth, and that's what you're doing in plan mode with Lovable. Does that make sense?
Thanks.
I
That's
just
a
saw-
great explanation.
Sorry?
Oh,
Kira?
thanks. That was a great explanation. What was the original prompt that you gave Lovable that was an output from Google AI Studios?
It wasn't from AI Studios to Lovable. It was from AI Studios to Claude. So I gave that context to Claude, and then I said,
Great.
but now I'm trying to do all these other things, right? And I gave it more context about what I wanted to do and could it work, right? And so one of the things I was trying to figure out is, should I have Lovable connect to my Google Drive, or should I have it connect to my project over in Claude? and, some things like that. Like, what's the best structure for it? Where should it refer? Because I also thought it would be cheaper if it was doing the analyzation work over in Claude. So I wanted to know, is that true? Will it slow it down? And yeah, it does slow it down just a little bit, but not remarkably so, things like that. So it's a great place to be able to work out all of your questions and what do I really want and what do I want to add and all of that. And then you just ask Claude again, okay, so what do the updated instructions look like now? And it'll think, and then it'll produce new updated instructions for you. And then you can take those instructions and put them over in Lovable.
Thanks. That's so helpful. Thanks for
Yeah.
going through how all of the different models work together.
Yeah. And look, this was how I came up with it. I know someone else who's building in Cursor, and then he's using Vercel to create the website instead of Lovable, right? So there's lots of different tools, and depending upon what your preference is, this was something I thought, these are tools that I'm using a lot. And so I wanted to just share that. And I'll be trying out other tools too as I go, just, because one thing I'll just say, last June when we did an AI agent walkthrough, someone was asking me questions about it, which I hadn't gone back and done a lot of work in since. And everything had changed, literally everything. So if you go over to Agent AI, it's completely different than what it would look like last June, right? And so what happened, and if you had talked to me 6 months ago, I would have been building all of these things, the conversations over in ChatGPT, not in Claude, right? There was a brief moment when I was in love with Gemini. I think that was like mostly November, December was my love affair with Gemini, right? So like these things change because their capabilities are changing. Be open to trying new things. And the other thing you can do too is you can always ask these tools, create a summary, a very detailed summary of everything we've discussed to date, and create an output, a written output. And then you save that in your own drive, right? And you can always use it and take it with you to the next tool, right? And you can do this when you're generating what you want your voice to be, what you want your, whatever sort of instructions or information, any of those things, right? So think about it. Everything that you're generating, right, is essentially an output of your brain. And think about how you're using AI and how you might build your second brain, because that is your thought leadership, right? And it evolves over time, and let it evolve over time. And the tools you use are going to evolve over time, but they're all so easy to use. They truly, truly are. So as long as you're sort of keeping your own content together in a drive somewhere, right, that you're backing up, hopefully, because it's all just digital and it can fail. But then you have a way of developing your sort of resources of what your own thought leadership is. What do I think about the world? What is my perspective? What is my unique take based upon my experiences, right? I mean, that's what I'm doing, and I really encourage you to do the same.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.